This week I learned, always hope for the best and expect the worst when it comes to all things Stephen King and adaptation. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update, the first for spooky season. We are rolling into October here, final quarter of the year, and things are looking quite exciting. I do say so myself. Let's go ahead and dip into this week, guys. Lots of fun things here. Let's talk about what am I reading. Well, I did finish The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. Now, I got kind of mixed opinions on this one. I think I really enjoyed a lot of things that she did here. I think that she has a very good way of telling a story. What I said was I was looking for a modern female horror voice that I have been missing since Anne Rice passed away. And I wouldn't say that necessarily, that this book is a clincher of, yeah, that definitely feels what I'm looking for. But I feel like I'll read more by her, well, without a doubt. I think the biggest thing for me in this is I love the portal stuff. I love kind of the relationship stuff, where they're talking about her family and stuff. I really dig that. You got a very much in that Stephen King kind of way describing where your character's at after the failings of their marriage and stuff. Gets you really connected to the character. You feel like you are invested in the character before everything goes kind of batshit. So with this, I feel like I liked everything that took place in the portal world. I thought that stuff was really creepy. I thought it was very effective. You can see all the hat tips to Algernon Blackwood and the Willows. I can see that stuff for sure. What I didn't really care for is it kind of had, and I think I confused some people when I said this, is I kind of felt like it had that MCU way of every time things started feeling a little too serious, a little too real, she always felt like she had to crack a joke. Now, this is inner monologue, and the character, she always had to kind of disarm herself. And I get it. You're in a super scary situation. You try to think of anything else. You go to your happy place. I don't have a problem with that. I just felt like anytime the horror was starting to linger a little bit, she would always try to break the tension. I'm like, I've been waiting for that tension. Let that tension stay right here. Why are you doing that? So that really frustrated me a little bit. And I can obviously see that she was quite a fan of Evil Dead 2. The scene in the cabin with all the taxidermy, because that is pretty much the last third. And I won't lie, I think the last third of this book might lose some people. I think it might just get a little too over the top. I'm all in for the supernatural. There's nothing off the table. You can't really jump the shark when you're dealing with, reason going out the window, I think. But I did appreciate the story. I enjoyed that it wasn't really too terribly long. I honestly think it could have spent more time in the portal world. There were some things that were unexplained, namely the school bus. And the thing was, is like, I feel like with horror, if you tell me how the sausage is made, sometimes it doesn't really have the same effect. So I'm okay with this. She didn't really explain all of that. But I don't know. I felt like I was kind of missing a little more. I feel like I maybe should have got some more. The horror elements were cool. Again, work on not always breaking the tension with something humorous or something just, to take us out of it, because I want to have that uncomfortable feeling. I felt like you built so good to get to that uncomfortable feeling, and then when you got it, you kept taking it away from me, and I hated that. But outside that, it's mixed of positive. I liked it very, very much. It's an author I will read again. I'll leave it up to the horror audience to let me know which one of her books I should read again if I'm wanting some horror, because I know a lot of people have told me Nettle and Bone. That was the other book I bought by her, but it is not quite horror, so that is not where I should go next. But as for this one, it's a good start. It's a good start to spooky season, I do think. And I think I have found another author right up there with Nick Cutter and Grady Hendrix and Ronald Malfi and some new horror authors. I'm going to try at least a second or third time. And again, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide which one that is next. But as for what am I going to read, well, spooky season does continue to roll on. Even though I've got those great Temptations and John Gwynne and Joe Abercrombie waiting for me, it did go ahead and roll on. I did start All the Fiends of Hell by Mr. Adam Neville. Now, this is my second attempt with Adam Neville. First one, Last Days, didn't really work for me. I'm not real crazy about the cult stuff, but this is one that is really easy for me to get into, because I love H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, and that's very much what this premise is. Alien races come down to just entirely annihilate the planet. There are no prisoners, there is no explanation, there is no negotiation, just, you're on this planet, you got to get off. It's ours now, and it's kind of how it feels. But with this one, it has such a thrilling concept. The way that chapter 1 and 2 start is literally with Adam Neville just being like, kill them all. That's basically how it starts. And it's just, wow, it really throws you into this loopiness. But what I like about it is, like, you don't really understand, why is Carl still here? Why is he still here? Why is all these other people? Is it really because he had the flu? That's really weird. There's some parts of me think, okay, maybe he was writing this during the virus and shall be named, and he thought maybe I can write that kind of storyline into this a little bit, because that feels like where the origins of it probably did happen. But it's an interesting concept, but you want to know, like, how did this all happen? Because it seems like the aliens just kind of flipped the switch and gravity went, and everybody just kind of floated away, except these people who have an illness or they were, under the weather, I think, when the event happened. And now the remnants are coming down off the ships to annihilate what is left. And it's not just humanity. It's like all life on the planet, everything. It's really, really interesting. But what I didn't expect is there's a little bit of a found family in here, it seems like. And I like that his main character is just kind of like this just dude. He's just a guy. He's just a guy, nothing spectacular. Probably pretty much an underachiever. His marriage fell apart because he's somewhat of an underachiever and other things, and they were never able to have kids. And now he's kind of found these kids. And he feels like it's his responsibility to take care of them in this, apocalyptic world here. So it's a very thrilling opening, I think, for sure. And I'm interested to see where it does go. But I'm already at that point where I'm like, dude, don't trust anybody, So I think of people who love like the Last of Us, who really enjoy stuff like that, The Walking Dead, I think you're probably really getting into this because it does feel like, okay, you're what's left on the planet while they're coming to eradicate you. But, you also have to deal with a lot of the rest of humanity that is left, and everyone's pretty much out for themselves. Now, thankfully, this isn't like the zombie apocalypse where all the resources are dwindling fast because there's not very much of the population left. So resources are there. It's just trying to stay alive, but it's also playing, I don't know, so far it's kind of playing with like ghosts or something, or remnants, I think, of people who have kind of disappeared. It's really spooky. So, I mean, it's just really fitting that mold. It is very brutal. It is pretty unforgiving, but it has just, if the opening doesn't get you in this, man, I don't really know what you're looking for in a sci-fi horror book, because this feels like this really does just take off in a way that when I was a younger man, I loved War of the Worlds. And now I've gotten older, I was like, I like War of the Worlds as a concept, but I feel like it could be just a bit more R-rated, a little more brutal, because like I said, I've always got that grimdark in me just trying to get out. But I was very, very pleased the way this one started, and I'm excited to keep going with it. On deck, I have Slewfoot, which will be one of my first real forays into, I guess you'd call it folk horror, because it's something I don't really do. I know this is very much more like folk horror, but I'm calling it like historical horror because it is based off like a puritanical America in the 1600s, and really just how that all goes with just the way that women were treated during that time period. So her husband passes away, and she's treated very, very poorly, as you might expect. But it feels like it's got a lot of Crucible in there, but it feels like it's got like a little bit of like Guillermo del Toro monsters. And that's just what the feeling I get off of the artwork that Brahm does here, which he does just amazing artwork, guys. I've already flipped through all the art in here. It's just superb. I mean, this guy is mega. I don't want to show you that. That feels like a spoiler. I don't know if I'm spoiling myself right now, but yeah, just his artwork is just phenomenal. This guy is just a killer. So if his writing is half as good as that, man, I think I'm going to be in for. But that really gives me like some Pan's Labyrinth vibes there. I love that. I love Guillermo del Toro. I think his monsters are just amazing. It looks like these are going to be quite amazing as well. So that's what I've got going on. As for this week on the channel, guys, did a couple of things. I did a review for a Canticle for Leibowitz, very much a sci-fi classic in every regard. I can see why it is held in such high esteem by everyone who's read it. And like I said, when I first did my post-apocalyptic video, my favorite post-apocalyptic and dystopian books, this was the comment I got the most. It's like, where is A Canticle for Leibowitz? Well, now that I've actually read it, I can see why it is so highly regarded, because it's a very, very good book. I do think that part one blows away the other two parts in the book. Part two was kind of for me, like almost like a leaping off point, but then part three brought it back around. You saw what it was doing, and I loved that it kind of felt like, a post-apocalyptic, a middle-age Renaissance, and then like a sci-fi book, all wrapped into one. So very forward-thinking there by Walter Miller. I think he even predicted self-driving cars, So, hey, guy was a visionary, right? But it's one of those where I think as you look back on it after you finish it, part two will make much more sense is why it was there, and actually make it feel more in touch with what he was trying to do with the cyclical nature of humanity and how we just continue to destroy ourselves. It's very much a book, I say, if you're looking for like this uplifting message about why humanity is amazing, you're probably going to get it there, because that is just like, hey, you know what? We're going to cleanse the world in nuclear fire, and then a few centuries later, we're just going to do it all again. So it is that kind of the time period that it was written in, where we were just waiting for the bombs to be dropped because we were pretty certain it was a matter of when, not if. I also did a wrap-up for September, named my book of the month. Always a lot of fun for me doing the wrap-up and kind of looking at things. I've decided to drop the analytics section of that portion because, long story short, guys, since the hack, channel growth and engagement has just been beyond bad. And it's been like 5 months now since then, so I'm just assuming that That's pretty much like the soft ceiling, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to whine about it or anything like that. But I just want to let people know that's why I'm dropping that content from there. So I won't be tracking my views and then hours watched and all that stuff anymore. I'll just keep saying, hey guys, thank you for watching. I do appreciate you guys that are here. But as for my book of the month, it was a very, very close race. But for me, it seems like coming of age always comes out the victor in those things. So if you've been watching the weekly updates, and I hope you have, you'll see very easily that what my book of the month was going to be, and I was very, very happy with it. And my description of it in that wrap up, a lot of people were saying, okay, well, after the way you just described it, I'm definitely picking it up because just talking about it kind of made me a little misty-eyed because there were so many things in that hit with me. The dad, a PTSD from war. My dad was at Vietnam. His dad was in WW2. It's things that really kind of hit close. I have the kid with the speech impediment. These are things I felt like that book's going to bring out something in everyone if you grew up. It really doesn't mean you have to grow up in small town America. You don't have to have a pastor for a father. You don't have to have a sibling with a speech impediment. You don't have to have a sibling that was missing or anything like that. I think it's just you will find something in there coming of age that will grab everybody because we all did it. We all did have our coming of age moment. Hopefully it wasn't as dark as theirs was. Over on Mike's Media Reviews, we did kind of a fun one, just kind of a precursor to spooky season. We were recording some of because every one of the movies that we're watching for spooky season, we're doing like a quick 10-minute review for. And right after we did that, I just turned the camera on. I was like, hey, let's just rapid fire, see what happens. And it turned into classic Disney animation and Pixar hot takes. Like who's your favorite villain and who's the worst villain and what's the best soundtrack and what's the worst Pixar sequel, stuff like that. It isn't the usual hater video, I would say, where you were just going to complain about Star Wars and Marvel and things like that. Now, no, it isn't that. It's really just very much going back to classic Disney because we grew up during Disney's second renaissance, after Little Mermaid, and we were Disney was everything for like 15, 20 years of our lives. So it was just kind of reminiscing about those things, and the conversation just went all over the place, but it stuck to Disney and Pixar. Talked about some of the live action stuff, like brought up like the Shaggy DA, and Herbie movies and stuff. It was a fun conversation. So if you were a little older like me and you watched the Disney stuff back then, I think you'll enjoy that conversation my wife and I had because it turned out to be a lot more fun than I expected. But expect that spooky season stuff here coming, all starting this week because we have recorded about 4 of them already. As for next week plans, guys, I plan to do my book haul for September because I do got some beautiful, beautiful stuff I would love to show you guys. Got a couple mystery boxes sitting over there that have been kind of just like eating at me because I want to know what's in them, but I feel like doing them for the book haul is always a lot more fun and appreciated. But also for spooky season, something I was kind of holding on to for a while is, gosh, about 2, maybe 3 years ago, I did a very much requested video of fantasy books for beginners, and it was a video that still gets lots of comments, lots of traffic, and I was kind of wondering, should I do an update on that one like I do with my my favorite fantasy series? And I said, you know what, why don't I do a horror for beginners, but wait until spooky season to do it. Now the thing with that is you got to understand I'm not quite the connoisseur, as you would say, when it comes to horror. I haven't read as much as some other channels that focus strictly on horror, obviously. So if you're wanting me to name everything that you love, that probably ain't going to happen. But if you're kind of just looking to get into the genre and find out why it is that people like it so much, I think I got a handful of ideas that I can present in that. And I'm going to kind of do that this week sometime. Talk about some best places to start. Maybe if you just want something short, if you're looking for like body horror, if you're looking for cosmic horror, if you're looking for just like some character studies or just thrillers. I mean, I think I'm going to have lots of ideas for you if you're looking to dip your toe into that end of the pool because the water is warm this time of year. And I think you will enjoy it if you give some of these things that I have for you a try. I think it should be a fun video. How about some TV and movie stuff before I go? I already talked about over on Mike's media reviews. We're going to be doing all those spooky season things. So make sure you guys check those out here coming this week. We're going to be talking about Psycho. We talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer. We talk about, no, we didn't do the Pope's Exorcist yet. What did we do? Dark Water, is that what it's called? Dark Water. We actually took recommendations and did not watch the Jennifer Connelly one, and we watched the original Japanese version, which was very scary. So I'm glad you guys actually did recommend that. And God, we did one other one. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, we got like 4 of those coming out this week, so make sure you check out that. But we did watch Salem's Lot last night, the new 2024, or I guess technically 2022 HBO. It was supposed to go to the theaters in 2022, and they canned it, and it sat there for 2 years, and now they've just kind of silently dropped it on to HBO Max here over the holiday season. So we watched it last night, and it's kind of one of those things you go into Stephen King adaptations as a big fan, knowing it's It's probably not going to be faithful. I mean, that's the first thing. It's probably not going to be faithful. One thing I'll say I was shocked at, they kept the setting in the 70s. That was surprising to me. I thought for sure they'd put it modern day and try to put their spin on it and make it be about TikTokers or something. You know, they didn't. They didn't. They kept it in 1975, and the soundtrack was great. I thought the soundtrack, both the orchestral and the music picks that they do, is really good. It really helps set the tone. But like the style, not quite as good as The Conjuring. The Conjuring nails that 70s style so good, but The Conjuring's a high bar. It really, really is. So I don't know if I would really say, hey, it's got to be that good. So it's like the aesthetic, not perfect. I thought the Marsden house was good. Some of the cinematography was excellent, especially when the Glick brothers are walking through the forest. That setting is beautiful. I wish it had actually lasted longer. But, I felt like this was very much the Cliff Notes version of Salem's Lot. So if you haven't read the book, I feel like it's a fun vampire romp. You'll like it. You'll like the movie, I think, just as a popcorn flick. And I just would think, I feel like this could have went to the theaters. It's not so bad that it could have went to theaters. It's actually quite enjoyable, especially if you haven't read the book. I feel like I've seen much, much worse movies like this go to the theater in October and make a lot of money. So I feel like Warner Brothers threw money away on this one. They could have made money off the Stephen King name alone. But with this, if you've read the book, you're going to be very frustrated because there are numerous characters eliminated. There are plot lines eliminated. This very much seems like the greatest hits of this. I think Father Callahan maybe has 8 minutes total in the movie, which is wild, especially if you guys are Dark Tower fans and you want to see more of Father Callahan. I thought the castings were great. I mean, even Ben, who I wasn't really fine with, he turned out to be okay. Susan, that's kind of iffy. I thought Mark was excellent. He had an excellent pick from Mark. Really good. And Mr. Burke was great. I loved that role. That was really good. Straker could have been better. I thought he was actually fine. He just wasn't in it long enough. So again, it just feels rushed. Again, you're trying to tell this massive, massive book, and you're trying to tell it in under 2 hours. I feel like for what that was the assignment that was given to this director, he did a good job with it. Because I felt like at the first 2/3, mostly faithful. There's some changes, some tweaks here and there, but mostly faithful to what Stephen King wrote in the most regard. We just eliminated some characters, but he kept the main storyline the same. Third act, it goes completely off on its own. It goes a little Marvel movie, I think. And that's fine. Like I said, if you're just wanting a fun vampire romp, I think you'll have a good time with it. Does kind of break its own rules a couple times, just same old Bram Stoker vampire rules. Like, okay, you get bit, then you have to die before you transition, and then later on in the movie, people are like zombies. They're just getting bit, and they're like immediately turning to vampires. Like they're not having to do the dying part first. So it has little things like that that'll probably bother you. But again, if you just want a brain dead vampire movie, I think you'll like it. But fans of the book, the 1979 Tobe Hooper one's still the quintessential version of Salem's Lot, and that was made for TV. So it's one of those things where I still feel like there's a really great scary version out there to be made. I just don't know if we've got another 20 years to wait for it, So there it is. Check it out if you haven't. But like I said, just go into it with the expectations if you've read the book, which is amazing, by the way. You need to read it if you haven't. But if you haven't read the book, I'd probably wait until after you watch the movie to read it, because it'll be hard for you not to look at things and be like, they could have done this. They could have done this thing better. Like specific things that I'll talk about what we talk about over on Mike's Media Reviews. Speaking of horror, I did try out Shudder. It's the streaming service for horror. I did the 7-day free trial because it was this program I was watching, and they let you watch, I think it's like Horror's Greatest is what it was called. Just a bunch of people sitting around talking about horror. That's something I love. It's just a bunch of horror masters sitting around talking about what makes horror great. Talking about horror movies like with Tom Savini and Stephen King and Rob Zombie and Eli Roth, people like that. It's a lot of fun. Mike Flanagan was on there. And I liked the first episode, and the rest of you had to either have AMC, and I don't have cable, or you can get Shudder. I was like, okay, cool, I'll just get Shudder. I'll try this 7-day free trial. This is the perfect time of year, right? I think Shudder's pretty cool for the month of October. I don't know if it's something I would keep year-round, but for like the month of October, you're looking to get some horror stuff injected into your bloodstream. I think that's the perfect place to go. It's got a lot of great content on there. The user interface is great. It's probably the best I've seen besides Netflix. It's really, really good. And I like the content on there a lot. They have a lot of those kind of shows. Like I was watching the 101 Scariest Movie Moments. That's a lot of fun. So I love a list like that when it comes to horror. And the horror selection is pretty good as well, So if that's something you're into, I say, hey, try the free trial and do like I did. Just blow through everything you wanted to watch there. Because I watched that and watched like movie curses, like movies that were cursed from go, like The Exorcist, like they had problems on the set and people dying and freak accidents and stuff. But I watched pretty much what I wanted to watch all in the 7 days. But again, for $6, I think, for the month of October, I think it'd be a good idea if you're looking to get some ideas for some spooky seasons of watches. But that's really all I was up to this week. I'd love to know what you guys are up to. What is happening Down in your side of the woods, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you playing? Why don't you drop in the comments, guys, and let me know. If you're going to watch Salem's Lot, I'd love to hear it. But go ahead and drop in the comments, guys, and let me know, and I will talk to you there. Have a great weekend.